I'm Doomsvince, and this is day 189 of Spawn Year.
What I initially expected to be the start of a significant multi-part story, perhaps even an epic, finishes up here as only a short two-part interlude. There's a lot I read into and assumed about the first part. That's why it's so maddening trying to literarily analyze a story that's not yet finished, that was only half right or completely off the mark, pardon the unintentional pun. But unlike the largely pointless filler issues I've had to endure lately where Spawn just whacks some heartless scumbag, the end, Spawn's victim this time, Mark, is at first cleverly presented as a worthy adversary who turns out to be way in over his head, a lot less powerful than he thinks he is, and a man who oversimplifies human nature to the point where he can't see what's right in front of his face. And while this story does nothing to further the grander narrative, it's still all about who and what Spawn has become since his dramatic transformation, and it cuts deep into the heart of his perceptions and attitudes about his existence as not Al Simmons, not a man, but as the Hellspawn. It turns out Mark had no idea Spawn had spurned hell and was no longer chained to Malbolge's will as I thought, because ironically, that's exactly what Mark tries to offer Spawn: freedom from hell's influence. More than that, a return of his personhood. Mark thinks that with his skills in dark magic, he can trade places with Spawn. Mark would become the Hellspawn, and Al would get his soul back and return to his old life. All it would take is a human sacrifice, Renee, the girl in the cage, and a ton of momentary discomfort. I don't really like the full-page spread here. It's almost exactly the same one we just saw last issue. Anyway, Mark isn't aware of the flaws in his logic, but Spawn plays along, hoping to teach him a lesson and appeal to his humanity. He tells Mark he wants to know what he's in for. He says he was denied his right to understand the deal, and he won't deny that right to Mark. Holguin demonstrates a new level of really impressive storytelling, allowing the events to unfold without cumbersomely explaining all the nuances. The character's dialogue and action is presented effortlessly and naturally, and nicely communicates what's really going on to the reader, even as characters themselves don't fully understand what's happening. And that lack of comprehension is kind of the point. Mark doesn't know he really has no power over Spawn, and that his offer of freeing Spawn from his curse, while it may have been tempting once, is well past the expiration date. Mark also doesn't know that as Spawn shows him his own version of hell and puts him through a trial by fire to prove his worthiness as a Hellspawn, it's all a fabrication created out of Spawn's own power. Holguin hints at this by having Spawn relate the rules of hell as being quite different from what we've seen there ourselves. But Spawn leads him on, hoping to reveal some sense of compassion, to make him see the lack of truth in his belief that power and strength means the absence of fear and caring for others, that those are simply weaknesses to be exploited by stronger and more fearless men. At every turn, Mark lets that all wash over him. Spawn can't make him remorseful about the people he's hurt, or scared of going to and serving hell. And for surprisingly understandable reasons, Mark has nothing to lose. He's dying of cancer, and as he says, he's 25 and he won't see 26. So he quotes the adage from Paradise Lost: it's better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven. He's using that quite literally. He's decided to make the best of it and join up with the most power he can hope to obtain. So after he proves he's really not afraid of anything and climbs a flaming tower, experiencing agonizing pain and laughing it off like it's a bubble bath, Spawn offers Mark the same deal he tried to offer Spawn: a second chance. And, at least to my reading, this he's telling the truth about. He takes Mark's tumor away and gives him the opportunity to start over, to try again. In this period where the reader has been so detached from the now little-spoken, stolid rock Spawn has become, this is refreshingly humanizing for Spawn. While Mark offers him his humanity in the opening pages, I love what Capullo brings to this. We see Spawn fantasizing about being Al Simmons again, and his image of Al growing old with Wanda is both touching and sad. The old Spawn would have gone postal on this kid offering him the world and Spawn knowing he can't deliver, but I think this more seasoned Spawn sees something of himself in Mark. Spawn 2 is a man with nothing to lose, trying to make the best of his gloomy fate and accept what he can't change while doing something about those things he can. But Mark lets his extreme philosophy trump his common sense. He thinks he has it all figured out, and thinking he's tricked Spawn with a pentagram into giving him his power and stature, he foolishly refuses Spawn's offer. Spawn wouldn't and couldn't have made Mark the Hellspawn. He gave up a normal life for nothing, something Spawn has painfully had to give up hope of ever having. And believe me, it was painful for both Spawn and for myself. What Mark can't see is that this powerful being he wants so badly to be is compassionate. He offered Mark life. So at the end, Spawn really does send Mark to hell by way of dropping him on a trident held by a statue of Poseidon, a symbol, by my interpretation, of merciless power, the kind of power Mark craves and which ultimately destroys him. It's a striking image, and while I'm not often impressed by opening stories with their endings, it's effective that I saw that on the first page last issue, because I wonder why it's there and what it means, and then I stopped to consider it more thoroughly at the end because I was so curious about it before. I really like that Spawn is more like Mark than he realizes. He chastises Mark for messing with forces he can't understand, but isn't that exactly what he's doing with the way he's handling the forces of hell himself? This is absolutely one of my favorite Spawn stories I've read so far. Signed, Captain Logan.